based on action, experience, celebration, custom.
With the arrival of Christianity.
Welcome back. Ladies, I wondered if you had any comments from our speaker.
You know what came up for me when she was talking was we all do ritual. Whether or not it's sacred is the difference. When I concentrate on the things on my altar, when I decide to do a ritual, the space becomes sacred because I'm giving my thought to it and my consciousness to it. But we have the rituals of brushing our teeth, of making our beds, of getting into the car, doing the traffic. All those things are rituals. You know, we do them, we focus energy, but it's not so sacred anymore. And so a lot of, you know, the crop tradition, or like they used to make love in the fields, symbolic, you know, oh, you know, fruitful, be fruitful and multiply, fields, so we'll be fruitful and multiply upon you. And that's what they used to do. We don't do that anymore. We drive through traffic, and that's our ritual for, okay, now I'll be fruitful and multiply.
At least prosperous, hopefully. Yeah, I think that's a good point, that in fact ritual is part of our life. And it sounds like with these kind of rituals or faiths that it's inclusive, where exactly. Traditional or maybe Christianity at some level has been exclusive at times for people, that this is kind of the way we do it, and there hasn't perhaps been a lot of room for personal interpretation.
Well, and I think that's part of the problem of the patriarch and why religion isn't satisfying for people, because it's too structured and too rigid, and consciousness is not. It's free-flowing, it's unlimited, and people want that now. They need that to explore and go deeper, and it doesn't satisfy the soul. So they look outward, and yet their receptors in the left brain say, oh no, Wicca, that's scary. I don't know about that. And their cells from past lives may say, scary fear, I was burned, you know. So they get going out there in consciousness and then get stopped by their, you know, left brain reception of the way that they've been programmed.
Well, and you raised an interesting point. As you were saying that, I reflected that a moment ago one of you mentioned the word power. And the fact that sort of traditional female ritual has been associated with female power. And in fact, many of the people who we talk about witches burned at the stake were, I guess, often women who were fairly independent and who were aware of ancient healings and things like that, and were somehow had some power that may have been intimidating or frightening to the people who were in charge at that time.
See, if you want to talk about witches, I went to Salem just last year, and the story is there were a lot of stupid people who decided to be persecuting other people, and these other people happened to be women who were healers, who were businesswomen, who decided to wear bright clothing. Oh my God, that was just horrible. We can't have that. You must be a witch. And they made up a lot of goofy rules so that they could persecute these women. And it was such a fear, such a constrictive time, that they started hurting other human beings out of their fear.
Well, and I think that, you know, the idea of fear and being willing to step out of our comfort zone, I think is part of what these rituals are all about, which is that maybe, you know, we can be expanded rather than constricted. Because, you know, I'm thinking of some of my traditional teachings, or the ways I grew up, was sort of, okay, there's a kind of a narrow gate, you know, and you do these things. And what you're proposing with these faiths has to do with maybe I can add some new rituals or some new faiths because I choose them, and not because somebody told me to, or...
But you look at what things are coming out now and people are attracted to, and they're attracted to aromatherapy, you know, which is incense in a mass production. The Japanese feng shui and the ancient art of feng shui and placement, which includes water and all of the elements, and, you know, the lines and watching the angles and bringing in prosperity with mirrors. And so it's just opening our minds to the possibility of different ways of being, rather than, like Sage was talking about, the structured, patriarchal. There needs to be nobody between spirit and you. Spirit works through you in your heart, and you need not worry about how spirit works through your neighbor.
That's right. Well, and the fact is that, as I understand it, spiritually, you know, we don't go out and get spirituality, that it's something that's as part of us as breathing. Right. So really, you know, what you're talking about are rituals to access what's already there, as opposed to going out and capturing something. You had some more things here on the table I'm curious about. You could tell us about them.
What do you want to know?
I want to know about her.
This woman I made. And actually during the firing she cracked, and she's glue, and I glued her together because it was symbolic to me. There was something about the breaking and the repairing, and that I could repair what I've created. And she's singing or she's praying, and I call her Sorrow. And it was during a ritual. I was working out a lot of sorrow that I had, some loss, and I created something beautiful out of it. And so she sits on my altar. She's one of my goddesses. And it reminds me of me. It's just something that I shaped.
So again, that using creativity is part of your spirituality.
Very much.
And using symbols, again, for something that's already there. Okay, what else do we have? We have some cards.
Yeah, I have some tarot cards, and I picked out a few. This one reminded me of you.
Ah,
And there she is with her cat.
that's me.
And again, it's just symbolic. See all the water and the animal and the growing things, and there's the feminine and its strength. But look how gentle she is.
Huh.
You pick up a lot through what you see. And, you know, I've got, this one is one of my favorites. This one I have close to my heart. And Pentacles, which, oh, people get very afraid. Ooh, that's the devil. Well, it's not. It's an earth symbol, and that's all it represents. And the Queen of Pentacles represents earth and wisdom. So she's deeply connected to the earth. And that's what I get here. The other one I chose is the Ace of Cups, which is prosperity, a gentle prosperity. Cups, something to hold, something to contain. You know, you have water in your cup. My cup runneth over. Symbols. My spirituality is a spirituality of symbols, things that help me access, discover what's already there.
So, thank you. So when you're working in your practice and you use ritual, and I know that you do have a psychospiritual focus, how do people discover their symbols? I mean, how do you help them do that?
Well, we do that through drawing, or we do it through meditation. In group therapy every week, we do meditation at the end for 10 or 15 minutes. Or I may lead something like my group. We went to the ocean, we had a field trip, and we went to the ocean so that they could release, and I had them collect stones as far as what their hurts and resentments that they wanted to release. And so we took time around a circle at the bonfire that everybody got to go to the ocean and release and let go. So whether it's I show them beginning to take the step, then they can open up their imagination and take those risks and create that for themselves. Because like Sage said, it really has to be a resonance in their own heart as to what those symbols are for themselves, and each person is different. You know, some may be drawn to the water, where other people like to, you know, use the candle, and some may just want to listen to the music. I think they're all, you know, really viable at different times in your life.
Do you find that people are drawn to certain symbols depending on where they might be developmentally?
Absolutely.
That maybe women at some age groups or men in their 40s might choose something different than a man in his 20s?
I think that's probably true. I've never, you know, looked at it as a study, but I'm sure that that's probably true, that at different passages or different times and events that have meaning, that people do choose different symbols. But that would be an interesting thing to study.
Yeah.
It's funny you said that. We wear black at funerals. We've all decided to choose that. The black is darkness, of going within, of holding. You look at the red in Chinese, and that's prosperity. They get married in red, and that's different from our white. Those are all symbols, more spiritualities going into culture. And I don't think it's limited by gender. I think a lot of people say, well, it's a goddess religion, so it's only for women. And there are sections, just like in other religions, where, you know, it's Dianic, which is just folk, and there is no god, just goddesses, and those are the only symbols we're going to use. And then there are more balanced traditions that incorporate a god and a goddess, or whatever symbology that works for you in the moment or in your circumstance.
Yeah. So, because I know even the clip that we heard a few minutes ago, she did speak of ancient gods and goddesses. Let's take a look at another quote, see what you think about this. The goddess is a liberator, because she is manifest in our deepest drives and emotions, which always and inevitably threaten the systems designed to contain them. She is love and anger, which refuse to fit comfortably into the social order. I'm wondering if you had any thoughts with that quote.
Oh, first of all, I have to tell you, I love Starhawk. I have The Spiral Dance, and there are other books that she's written. She's one of the more balanced and more public figures of the goddess traditions. And I think what she has to say is very non-threatening. And I like the quote about, especially the part about love and anger. Emotions in general really don't have any place in the social order as it is. You know, we need to stay contained and boxed up, and don't cry and don't get angry, and oh, be happy. And that's not who we are. We're humans, and we just be, and sometimes we be messy.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of that fitting in, finding a place where we fit in, and you're talking about the struggle around patriarchy. In fact, that there are women over centuries and centuries who don't fit in, have traditionally not fit in. Do you find when you work with women in your practice that as they become more aware of their own spirituality, they become less comfortable in their life? Less comfortable with the people around them?
Well, I think it's the people around them that become less comfortable. As they become more balanced in their own emotions and more powerful as a person, as a particular woman, a person, they get a lot of reaction to people around them that want them to revert back and regress back to the way that they were because they don't know how to treat them. And so the woman, you know, has to really stay balanced, and hopefully she'll have a network now of new friends that will affirm and support her in that new way of being, so that that isn't so hard on her, because after a while you may have to distance yourself from those old relationships.
Yeah, I think that's important, and we're going to need to close here in a moment, but I know that's important in any therapeutic relationship, which is as change happens, there will be consequence. Just like there's consequences for not having spirituality, I know there's consequences for it, and I really do appreciate both of you being with us tonight. I want to thank you. Do join us next week as we take a look at shyness. I'm Mary Crocker Cook. Good night.